Welcome to Wild by Zones, a podcast about reviewing every zone in popular MMO World of Warcraft. I'm Mary.
I'm Torin.
And I'm Eowyn.
All right, so we're at our last starting zone for Vanilla WoW. Obviously, we will be getting two more starting zones in some time. And this is the starting zone of probably the most unusual thing that they had as a player character race in base World of Warcraft. And that's the Forsaken. So
Forsaken. Why they're called the Forsaken? It's like pretty metal name. Not gonna lie, for a people.
Yeah, they're
You
pretty
think
metal
someone
themselves.
forsook them?
It's been forsaken by the world, perhaps. I don't know.
Oh my god, that's
Amazing.
tragic.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna talk about where the undead came from because
Oh yeah, the Forsaken are undead.
Yes,
Yes.
the Forsaken are they're literally undead humans. They look really ugly. They got like bones coming out of them, really rotted jaws that are like off their face. They look kind of disgusting.
They play very clearly into the idea that these things are uncomfortable to look at. They aren't just like, oh, undead. Like you could make them into cute undead. You have to play something ugly and gross. Like you can't play anything else, and that's important.
Yes, it's very important. Where they came from, like most adventure games like this in this era are not going to have a race like this. The reason these exist is directly from Warcraft 3. Basically, the Scourge arose in Lordaeron, killed everyone, used the plague to make more undead, and Arthas, who led the undead there, fights this elven woman, Sylvanas, who he kills, raises as a banshee. And this is a very strong-willed woman. And she says, actually, fuck you, makes a deal with demons, breaks out of her dominion by Arthas, and takes the undead that are under her command away. And these undead then become the Forsaken.
Yeah, and the Scourge, of course, are almost entirely mindless. They just purely serve Arthas and the the whole domination and just this force. But I think what makes Sylvanas so significant is she says, no, I take a radical individual stance. I will break away from the world, from any sort of comfort or being or happiness, and just be like, I want to break away from that, and I'm going to bring these people with me. And they are the Forsaken. They're not just Forsaken from the world because they're ugly and gross and an abomination of nature. They're Forsaken by almost like a very sense of having a place or a being or a culture or society. They just exist in the world as these outside undead. I think that's really fascinating as a base idea for people.
Yes, and one of the main questions posed by the undead, like through it comes up several different times, is whether the undead are just servants of Sylvanas, like they were of Arthas when they were part of the Scourge, or if they actually have free will to disobey her and be their own person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a really, really interesting and a very unique. Like we talked about the Night Elves being like very tied into WoW lore, but fundamentally the Night Elves are still very much the nature-loving ancient wood elves thing. That they're a type of elf that you've definitely seen before, even if WoW's spin on them is different. This is a thing I'd literally never seen before World of Warcraft, and not much after either.
Well, people don't generally like to play undead because there are de facto, like, obviously evil force in, like, almost every fantasy game and tons of books and movies and stuff. It's just a staple of the fantasy genre.
Yeah, and from the very beginning of the work, right? When you start and hear the opening narration, you get a very strong sense of like you've been forsaken by the world, as we said. Like you got nothing to give. You have the only meaning of life. The only thing that's even worthwhile is the fact that Sylvanas gave you freedom, and you have to do something meaningful with that. Right? Like, there's like this dark, creepy sort of intro, and you've come in, the camera sweeps over this desolate land of darkness and bones, and you go into a crypt, and you wake up in a crypt, which I just think is an absolutely fantastic way of opening up.
It's great.
And the person there is like, oh hey, you're awake. We were about to throw you in the. We were about to just throw you just burn your body with the rest of them, or something like that.
Yeah, it's a very shocking. It's like, wow, glad I woke up now, or they would have burned me to death. Oops.
Yeah, and I think generally you get this throughout the death now, which is whole opening area, which is sort of like this. I think as all the opening areas, it does like, oh, you're a new recruit, you need to be trained in some way. But here it's very much like, okay, welcome in. Like there's a lot of like interesting text where they sort of like make fun of you, or they're like, oh wow, you get to live a miserable life now, but that's just what it is to be, one of us now. There's the kind of shared community that you get in like the orc or the trolls or from the humans. This isn't here at all. Like these people do not have a shared identity at all. They just have this one shared experience that is dying and being raised and having a relationship with Sylvanas herself. And her, it's almost like freedom. The freedom of Sylvanas, the individuality and freedom that Sylvanas sort of represents for them, is the only guiding principle of their society that exists whatsoever.
Yeah, basically, really, all the quest givers are focused on, like, directly, one of them will say to you, we have to be useful to Sylvanas. That is our purpose. So go do these things. Like, and several people are like, okay, you need to do this so we can sew up people's bodies, this so we can like go gather supplies, because we are literally falling apart. Our society's falling apart. This is like everyone seems super on edge and very, very determined, and just like you get the sense that this is a extremely poor, desperate people.
Yeah, and this is a little bit later in the zone, but there's a quest in Brill that I think really like expresses this. And there's someone, this woman's like, I have never felt like warmth since I became a Forsaken.
It's so sad.
And as such, I was like, can you please go and get me a blanket? Like maybe I can be happy, and then maybe then I'll be useful. Maybe I'll have some sort of warmth in my life. And it's just like, I don't know. It's a weird quest in a zone where most of the quests are very practical and to the point. And it's like, can you please make me a blanket? I need this to feel comfortable. It actually reminds me of the quest in Dunmorrow, where we had a similar thing where a dwarf is going off to war, and he was like, "Hey, can you get me like some warm furs to put into my tank so I can like have something to lay down and be comforted in as I go into the world?" I don't know. It's kind of an interesting reflection of the same idea, but like in a very different context, where instead of like, oh, this person has this, they have a shared like the dwarf society is like sort of like uncomfortable, unhappy, and like really pissed about going to war, and has like there's like coldness and bitterness, and like at least they have some kind of shared meaning. At least we're putting the coat to here's nothing. It's just I want a coat. I want a blanket for the sake of having a blanket, and there's nothing else beyond that.
It is really interesting. I really like. This is the thing. Remember how we mentioned that I am gonna like try to circle back to Death Knell thing. I feel like important thing on the desperation here is Death Knell is fucking covered in zombies. Most of the previous starting areas like felt like you had some like kind of civilization. Death Knell feels like a little dinky, shitty outpost that has been overrun by zombies and skeletons, and there are significantly more of them than there are you.
Yeah, and any of them could have been you, right? You could have ended up as these people. It's almost like it's pretty clearly implied from the quest that you got lucky, that you ended up as who you are, as someone who has like who's given their free will. And that's why I think why it's really important to have this relationship. This is why Sylvanas is so obsessed over by all these people all the time. It's like, well, I can see right in front of me what I should have been if it weren't for this.
Yes. All right. Hey. I think we should move on to the last part of Death Knell, which is the Scarlet Crusade. Basically, the Scarlet Crusade are this human remnant of Lordaeron, right?
Yes.
The kingdom of Lordaeron, who are utterly fanatically opposed to the undead, and basically have made it their life's mission to wipe them out. And obviously, this isn't so great, like specifically the Scourge, but they see all undead as the Scourge, which is a big problem for Sylvanas' undead.
Yeah, it's kind of... They're one of the main... Yeah, sorry. They and the Scourge are the two main antagonistic groups that you run into throughout the zone. I think actually literally like every single enemy that is not just a beast is either affiliated with a Scourge or with the Crusade.
And Murlocs.
And there's also a few errant humans from Lordaeron, like the Lordaeron Kingdom.
Yes, and to be clear,
they're under the protection of the Scarlet Crusade.
Yeah, the Scarlet Crusade is Lordaeron in a lot of ways, but it's interesting because so are us, the undead, right? We were people of the Kingdom of Lordaeron. We were corrupted by the plague. We became scourged, but now we've woken up under the free will that was granted to us by Sylvanas. So we've been forsaken by the scourge, to put it in another more positive way. And in that sense, I think it's really important, right? The two people we played are like the Scourge, what you could have become, and the Lordaeron humans, the Scarlet Crusade, what you were. There's place almost like this almost like like looking forward to the Scourge becoming mindless zombies, like it could be happening to me at any point, and then looking backwards to like, oh, this is who we were. This is the sort of like this is what we believed in the past, This
I think it's also important to clarify that the Scarlet Crusade is a departure from what Lordaeron used to be. This fanatical insanity towards the like insane fear and hatred of the undead only comes after the undead have wiped out. The Scourge have wiped out most of them. Like it's something that arises out of the need.
Mm-hmm. It is a really interesting like thing, and I kind of wish that we got a little more like storytelling about like the way this organization did during Classic, but I think there's some really like interesting stories that are told with this organization, because
also, I actually think it's more effective that they don't tell the Scarlet Crusade story, because the perspective of the undead is just more important. It's more interesting if you see the Scarlet Crusade as monstrous racists who hate you.
Now, of course, when you think, which is interesting, because if you come in here and you're like looking at this from the outside, the Scarlet Crusade kind of look like the good guys in this sense. They are the last bastion of like living humanity here in the face of everything, and which is like kind of a tragedy here. The fact that these guys could be working with the Forsaken if they knew what was going on here, and they haven't. The Forsaken have been forsaken by like everyone around them, alive and dead. These people are what remain of your living comrades, of the people that when you were alive you broke bread with, you probably like ate with. This is what's left of them. An insane, crazed militia fighting a dying war that will eventually lead to their deaths and the deaths of many, many others. And that's it. That's all they have.
Yeah. And I think looking on that, like it's almost like it's pretty clear why the Forsaken don't have any strong sense of self or the community or ideology, right? It's because like, oh, what's if I look around to myself and find what the one like meaningful ideological sort of framework that the people around me has, it's insane religious fanatics who can't see reason and can't like and will only act in this like super binary way of approaching the world. Like that's the only version of this idea that I can see around me. And so of course I'm going to be a nihilistic like asshole, just sort of like act in like sort of a depressed like suspension of like any kind of belief.
Yes. The fundamental concept behind the Forsaken is everything and everyone around them is telling them you are an evil monster that needs to be destroyed. And the Forsaken, the fundamental Forsaken is they're like saying, fuck that. We just got free of the worst and most horrible crime that anyone has ever affected us, and we come into a world that hates us. Fuck this. We will survive at all costs, and we don't fucking care what's going to happen to anybody else.
Yeah, and we see this, I think, with pretty clearly with the actual city, the main hub city of the zone, the Undercity. It's interesting. We don't. It's not. You could have just called it the city of Lordaeron, right? You could have rebuilt the city, rebuilt a sort of like bastion of that thing. We don't. Instead, when you walk to the Undercity, you start with this sort of grand entrance, but it's almost like ironic grand entrance, right? Because we know that Lordaeron has fallen, and you come into it, and all the statues are cut off and broken down. The moat has been like turned into like weird, gooey, yucky like slime. And you sort of just wander through these halls of at least at one point we're obviously a resplendent human empire and say, no, we abandoned that. We're not going to go back to that. We're not going to rebuild that. Instead, we're going to build our kingdom directly beneath that. It almost is like a subconscious. We are the subconscious of what Lordaeron was.
I think one of the main reasons that Lordaeron isn't rebuilt and they don't try to be what Lordaeron was before, but an undead version, like in a sort of well, we're still kind of alive, and these are the people we are, is because of the leader of them, Sylvanas. Because she's actually a high elf with no real emotional or national connection to Lordaeron. I think like Sylvanas clearly has sort of a twisted sense of humor. She came here because these are her people and this is where they used to live, but we're gonna kind of mock the entire thing because that's what we are, a mockery of life.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think most of every other race in this world is very much like they have these leaders and they both respect their leaders somewhat, right? There's like the humans, the Varian Ben, like he's this great like leader who they miss from him, or like the orcs and thrall, he's this person who's given them meaning, give them a place, right? Like, but these are like very clearly humans, like or like human, obviously like race, but these are mortals. These are people who are in their lives. That you can talk to these people and be like, I can understand this person is like me. They're just maybe someone greater, something like so they're kings,
Yeah.
they're rulers. Sylvanas is like that. They say Dark Lady watch over us. They treat her like a god.
Yeah.
And that's like really significant. And like if she was like some Lordaeron like knight or king or something who'd raise the undead and keep that, I don't think she would have been treated that way. I would agree. I agree. Like we would have gotten a new Lordaeron that attempts to become a shadow of its past self. But Sylvanas, of course, Sylvanas in herself being
someone who completely hates herself, hates her people, hates her past, hates what's happened to her.
Yes, 100%. That, on top of the fact that she clearly looks down on Lordaeron and the humans and these puny cute little empires that, she has lived for tens of thousands of years, right? She finds it all goofy and hilarious, and you can see like she's this like bitter sort of like way of approaching the world. And I don't know, this idea that your god is herself a self-hating, bitter, basically sardonic asshole is like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting as a concept.
Yeah, and it makes sense with the whole thing here. So
I think she also kind of encourages the worship in the way that she treats her people. It's because I think the fact that she doesn't she cares about her people, but she does not love them.
Yeah,
it creates like a big separation between them.
It is unclear whether or not the Forsaken are capable of love. Like, it is legitimate.
I don't think that's right.
There's an ambiguity to it. I think that is deliberate throughout the zone.
Can you give an example, a quest where you see that?
Oh, yeah. So towards the end of the quest, and we'll sort of get to this, you're fighting throughout the zone. You fight the Scourge. There's a particular bastion of the Scourge that consists of a family that were one of the first people in Lordaeron to fall to the Scourge. And while you're going around killing the undead versions of the family that have become the leaders of the Scourge in this area, you come across a letter from I think it was a letter from Thurman Agmund, who I believe is one of the undead you kill, and he's a mindless zombie, by the way. He's just a mindless zombie when you kill him, but you can find his letter elsewhere to a woman who was alive at the time, just like saying that like get out. You have to get away from here. Devlin is betraying everybody. Everything is bad, and please just be safe. I know that I'm going to die, but you don't need to be, my love. And you find her. She's another undead that you can like bring that back to, and you come to her, and she has an emotional reaction to it, and she's like clearly a little distraught. But it immediately fades, and it immediately says, and it immediately dulls, like during the like text as she's reacting to it, where she says, but this is what I am now. I cannot be concerned with these things. I cannot be concerned with these things anymore because I am forsaken. Nothing can come before survival.
She specifically says, love does not exist for me anymore. But I think that proves that Forsaken can love people. She literally forces down the emotions because she wants to be something else. Not because she can't feel those emotions, but because she rejects her former self. Yeah. That's not the same as not being capable of love.
That's fair.
I would say it's even more complex here because several times I remember very back in Death Note, a few like quests. These from we actually this is like some of the most compelling actually class individual quests like just text.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was taking the priest quest. I was kind of interested. Like he's like the priest is like, I don't know why we can still worship the light. That doesn't really make sense, right? We've been forsaken by everything, so why has the light not forsaken us? Why can't we still tap into it? It's he sort of mocks the light as a concept in his business, and they was like, well. We makes the comment mention to like Dark Ladies. It's honest. It's like, do we really have individuality? Do we really have meaning? Are we really doing this thing? Is my relationship to the light the same as was I was alive? Do I still worship these things? Do I still believe? I don't know. And it's like, wow. The sense of like almost like individual like inability to know whether they are free or not causes them to have a trouble, I think, with like belief in the first place, right? She can't believe in love because for her it's like, well, how could a pure servant of Sylvanas believe in love? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not do I have individuality or do I not? Like it's like but it's weird because the very freedom they have is predicated on Sylvanas' own sense of free will while being enslaved to Sylvanas itself. It's this weird oxymoron where I think it's hard to find like that emotional sort of grounding. And I think this letter expresses that really well.
It's like an entire people is in constant state of existential crisis.
I do think it's worth noting on the faith thing is generally in World of Warcraft, faith is mostly, especially in vanilla WoW, like the faith of the humans in the faith of the humans in the light, the orcs and the elements, the night elves in Elune, the trolls in the Loa, and the Torin and the Earth Mother, and it's generally a very positive thing, a positive community building, warm thing that makes people happy. And I feel like the Forsakens having that entire concept supplanted by Sylvanas, a cold woman who's basically preaches an ideals of like the only thing, nothing will protect you but yourself.
The only thing that matters is vengeance.
Yes. And it's interesting to see that contrast with the rest of them, the way that faith is that faithless society exists in the setting. Now, disclaimer, I am not personally religious. I do not think that faith is all good all the time. I'm just talking about how it is portrayed here.
Especially because, like, you look at, what's the big faith in my place? Oh, it's the Scarlet Crusade who want to fucking kill me.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
those bitches are all paladins and priests.
Yep.
I think that's a good way of establishing that the light is not a moral force. It's not like D&D paladins where if you break your oaths, your powers get taken away or something. Like, the light is just something that you can tap into by having this special connection. It has no moral like question around it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there an interesting text from your warlock trainer as well from Death Now?
Yes, that one talks about the individuality of the undead in general. Like he's like, hey, you got a letter from him, which is really weird because the guy who gives you the letter is literally right next to the guy who sent the letter. It's really strange. Like, I never understood that. I'm like, wait, what do you mean this guy sent me a letter? He's right there. But anyway, basically the letter is like, hey, so I've heard you're a new budding warlock, blah, blah, blah. So what do you think about this whole Sylvanas breaking away from the Scourge deal? Like, and individuality in general. Do you think we have, like, he literally asked you, do you think we have free will? Because I disagree with things that the Dark Lady is doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm no he says, I'm no traitor, but the beautiful Sylvanas is not always right. And it's like, he says it he sends you a letter, like, to make sure this is a secret conversation between the two of you. Like, that, like, saying this is almost blasphemous to an undead. And it's really interesting. Like, just, again, it's again, more questions about whether the undead have agency or not.
Yeah. And I love the thing with if we think of this question is it just goes completely unanswered. Like, this question has this zone has no conclusion, right? You sort of like kill some important like undead, like scourge people who you want to like prepare your attack on the main city, Brill, city, a town. It's a bunch of ramshackle houses. It's a mockery of a town. Or the Scarlet Crusade, where you sort of like you go through, you follow your attack plans, which you stole from them, and you go through and eliminate them all. And it's like, okay, well, there's of course that's it. You did it. Good job.
Yeah, and when you kill their leader, like the local leader in the place, there's definitely no conclusion at all, because there's still the giant Scarlet Crusade monastery that's literally just hanging like a big shadow over the entire zone, like on the eastern side. And when you go near there, you see Scarlet Crusade, who like appear as elite skulls to you, which means they are way too high level for you to fight them. They will kill you in one shot. And these are the enemies you're supposed to be fighting. These are the Scarlet Crusade. And it's like, well, I guess we're not going to deal with that right now anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, again, there's just no conclusion to this zone at all.
Yeah, and at first I was kind of disappointed. Like, oh, this zone is so expressive. It's so like in depth, and it's like I love the feeling, the music, all the trees having nothing on them. Like across the zone is like gorgeous, and like the exact opposite way that Teldrassil was gorgeous. Like,
the filthiest way possible.
Exactly. The fucking abominations with their guts hanging out, walking around. Gordo, my boy.
Gordo is our
Gordo.
boy.
His gloomweed.
He just wants you to. He doesn't hear very well. He thinks Doomweed is gloomweed. He's doing his best.
But yeah, like all these things. But then the fact is like, oh, this end is you just sort of we have this quest and it's over, and like you talk to the magistrate, and they're like, okay, good job, you can go now. You're like, okay, well, but I don't know if I'm an individual. I don't know if there's any meaning in my life. I'm just following these quests and doing the building of the Dark Lady, and there's a bunch of scourge, and like, am I just one of those? Like, I don't know. I can't say that.
I think this is a good part to like talk. Now that we've mentioned the thing, I think it's probably a good time to talk about what my opinion is the best part of both versions of the zone, and that's the central quest hub and town of Brill. Brill is a little old, is a little like ramshackle human town that is like the primary staging area of the undead in Tirisfal Glades. And it is the primary place that like seems to be like a proper haven in a way that Death Knell really wasn't. Like Death Knell was not like Brill felt like an actual like fairly safe place for the undead in the way that Death Knell didn't, which is really interesting because that's the opposite of how the starting area is presented in, for example, Red Cloud Mesa or
it's similar
the
to how
Trials.
they do it in Dunmorrow, though.
That is true, except this is where I'm going to talk. This is where I'm going to talk about things. So. We talked about how the inn at Keranos at the beginning at the central thing at Dunmorrow, when you go in and like it's warm, it's pleasant, it's homey, it's a good place after the cold, barren wasteland of Coldridge Valley trudging through there, and it is a place to rest. You go to an inn at Brill, the vibe is so different. The vibe at Brill is just like it feels uncomfortable and on edge. Like these are people who are like the concept of comfort is itself alien and uncomfortable to them. Like you talk to like the person who like runs the inn, and she's clearly trying to be all smiles and pleasant, and she just like immediately sees that obviously you see through that because it's obviously a facade, and she immediately just gets to like be like whatever, just go find a place and sit down.
Yeah, and this is actually where the quest to help the lady find like some furs so that she can be warm. It's like this place is horrible and cold and loveless and lifeless. Yes. Like it's the same, like it's reflected in the absolutely insane music that plays. Like I don't think I've heard this track or any track like it in all of WoW. It's like this really weird, what instrument is it?
It's like
glockenspiel, maybe, like
some sort of percussion that's like, I think the tuning is like intentionally discordant or something, because literally it sounds like someone plucking in, like I think the effect is someone plucking an out of tune instrument at random rhythms on random notes, and it just literally just puts you on edge. You're just like, what's going on here? Am I about to die? What's going on? And it establishes the effect of the inn as a kind of terrible place really well.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I actually I just listened to it real quick. I think it's of a bowed. I think it's like the low strings of a piano being bowed against like a glockenspiel like randomly.
That's horrifying.
Huh.
That is
Um,
horrible.
That's wild. It helps with the effect. I love this inn for the exact opposite reason I love the inn at Keranos. Especially I love it after doing Keranos, doing Dunmorrow and having that version of it.
It
yeah, for
established
sure.
that vibe so good. So good vibe.
But at the same time as all this like sort of like thing, they do have an inn. It does have a fireplace, and it does have an innkeeper. It does have it. You can see barrels. They're probably brewing beer in those barrels. That has an upstairs with beds.
There's
Like,
a drunk guy there's a drunk guy in the basement who tells you to piss off.
like the whole thing, the whole zone. So much of it's just telling you, oh, we're not like Lord anymore. We're not the humans anymore. We're different. We've become a new ascended being. We understand we're second by everything. Only the Dark Lady matters. But it's like obviously not. No, these people are just trying to live. Like the girl who you bring the letter to from her ex-dead boyfriend. She's in this tavern, and I think that's really important. That like, despite it not working, they're still at least on some level grasping onto something.
Yes.
Which does give them some like the woman once you give her back her the blanket, she says thank you. I feel nice and warm now. You're like, oh wow, that's
Just
nice.
little
She found
bits of warmth.
something.
There's just these little bits of warmth and
Yeah.
like things are very interesting there in the way they
Yes.
contrast us as them.
It's really important.
I like how the guy who's in charge of Brill is like weirdly upbeat all the time.
He's
always
so
like,
nice.
All right, you're doing great things for our people. Let's establish ourselves. Let's carve out our place and let's knuckle down and do it. He's got this very much like can do mayor of the town
I think
attitude. And I
almost
love him.
every other quest giver, like who sends you on missions to kill people, is either like part of the sorta kinda super evil apothecary society, or is like we gotta wipe out all of the humans kind of like zealot for Sylvanas.
The Death Guard, yeah.
Yeah, like the Death Guard and the Royal Apothecary Society give you most of the quests, and both of them are like fanatically opposed to humans or fanatically opposed to all life in general.
I think this is where there is one exception. There is a couple exceptions. The one big one is the guy who's just hanging out at the Brill Tavern who wants you to just fucking go up and kill the Agments, not because like they're a problem and they're a threat to you and they want to destroy the Scourge. Just like, no, because these guys fucking let the Scourge in. Whatever's happened to their state now, I want to see their heads, and I want them to die. I want them to suffer.
It's weird class thing because he was. I think he implies that he was like a farmer on their estate, and they said, "Don't run. The Surge are here. Just stay up here. We're gonna hold up here." And then one of the people of that family betrayed them and like brought the Scourge in. It's like, well, I was told to protect these people, and the same people who I was supposed to protect, were supposed to like be safe, be keeping safe and keep safe, betrayed me and got me killed. Fuck those people.
I think this guy is really interesting just because I think he's supposed to directly reflect the kind of person Sylvanas wants to be everyone, like all undead to be. Like her, she wants them all to be driven completely by vengeance, be completely ruthless, and destroy, like, with extreme prejudice, whatever has hurt them. I think this guy, in my opinion, embraces the most Sylvanas like edict he possibly can.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see the contrast between him and the dude who's chilling back, and like the mage dude who's chilling back at the Undercity, who found out his old friend like came back and has free will. His old friend, like mage friend, came back and has free will. It's like, oh shit. Let's go like meet with him. I want to go hang out and like just swap some old stories.
Well, he also does point out that he thinks he'll be a useful asset to the undead because again, all undead have to justify the actions that they take for themselves as, this is still good for the undead in general, for the Dark Lady. Like everything always has to relate back to serving Sylvanas.
What's especially interesting about that quest is that the guy you go to, he doesn't know that the Forsaken exist. He still thinks that all Forsaken, all undead are Scourge. Like he literally, he was not included in Sylvanas' wipe. He just like happened to like be not end up as scourged.
Because he was a powerful mage, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, powerful
Well,
mage.
I assumed he also broke free of the will. It just wasn't as important because he didn't have any undead under command.
That is what they said he did. He broke through the will. He used his magic because he was a magician. He broke through the will by himself. Because people didn't really care about him, and he just like basically went on an island and like raised an army of like his own like zombies to protect him from the world because he thinks that he is the only last one alive, right? And this is almost like a microcosm of how the undead, the Forsaken act generally, in this sort of, we are the only ones that we can trust. Everything else is terrifying. We have to like take vengeance on the world and like or at least protect us from a world who all hate us. This guy's like almost the most extreme example of that. Like everything, like literally every single being in this world that wants to kill me, and I have to stay on my island for the rest of my life. And then he gets in like a little like letter from his friend saying, "Hey, you want to come hang out?" He's like, "Fuck, he's still alive." Wait, all these things you see him almost like visibly brighten up. I mean, obviously he doesn't because it's an MMO from 2004. But he gets excited. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I found something. I found some set of meaning." And honestly, that was the last quest I did in the zone, and I'm really happy that was the last quest I did because it felt like it was like a weird upbeat note to end the zone on. Like,
it really was.
There is like, as long as they can push out of these restrictions, like who knows if they have free will, who knows if they're safe, if they can love, whatever. But at least they can find something that meaningful somewhere.
I like that this guy has no attachment to Sylvanas. Like he's just a guy.
Yep. I love Gunther Arcanus. I wish he showed up ever again in the game. I literally looked it up to find out if he does. He does not. I'm so sad about that.
Anyway, I think that's pretty much goes through like the whole zone from like the class crystal. So I kind of want to like switch perspectives to look at what Cataclysm did with this zone. Cataclysm, honestly,
they fucking killed it this time. They did a good job.
So every other Cataclysm starting zone has some minor or maybe somewhat major changes, but they still fundamentally are the same story. This one is not. This one says no, it is not. It is not.
Mulgore at the start is also quite different.
Correct.
To be
I mean, there are parts that are different than other things. There are other parts that are like act as sequels or respond to or react to. There are a few things. Mulgore is probably the most extreme example. This one's the entire zone says everything that happened in the past did happen, and we are doing something new. We are in evolution. This is the new world we're living in. These are new people.
Except that you still kill NPCs with the same names, which is kind of funny.
Sure, that was a weird lady Torin. I don't know why. They kept the same.
They're so dumb. They was just such an easy fix.
Yes.
Whatever.
But I want to talk about New Death Knell to start. So New Death Knell, instead of being raised like kind of crit and about to throw you out there, you actually get raised by a Valkyrie. So Valkyrie is kind of weird. Valkyrie were a basically Valkyr, whatever. Basically the agents of the Lich King, the Arthas, the guy who fucking did all the fucking scourge stuff that we hate. We don't like this guy. He's a bad dude. But when he was defeated at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, the expansion, basically the Valkyr say, "Hey," Swan's like, "Hey, you guys are pretty good at your job. You want to come join us?" And they're like, "Why not?"
Yeah, because Sylvanas was really worried. Like one of Sylvanas's big worries, like throughout the first Vanilla and Wrath and Burning Crusade, is that the undead are dying and there's no way to make more undead. And the Valkyr solved this problem for her. She can make new undead.
But at the same time, it's like introduces a much worse ethical dilemma. Well, so. The thing is, it's like when it comes to like the making the undead in the first place and the old things, like, you are saving these people that would have ended up as mindless scourge and fucked their entire life. You were saving those people. That's what the original undead were. There's this positive level of like the Dark Lady reaching down and giving you a meaning in life, giving you a brain, giving you a life. Here it's the opposite.
He can literally just kill you and then raise you as basically her servant. Actually pointed out specifically as a huge problem by the new leader of the Horde, Garrosh, in Cataclysm in the second Undead Zone. He gets very angry when she shows up. But sorry.
Yes.
But now you're being raised by a Valkyr. You it's not clear how you died. You don't know. You have no idea. But now you're part of the new Forsaken.
And they immediately, it's so funny because like the bitch Forsaken, they say, "Okay, see those guys over there who are all like we just raised? Go convince them to join us."
It's actually really
like turned into a propaganda machine in the moment you were raised.
Yep.
It's like
It's also-
crazy.
the weird aimlessness that you see in the old zone is now completely shifted and said, no, we have an exact meaning. You arrived. It's not like, oh, go and kill some undead, I guess. Just let it. It's like, no, you're erased. Go and do this exact set of things we have planned out for you.
Yeah, it's not like, while previously it was just like the Forsaken felt like they were like the original version of the Forsaken feel like they were a tiny little like holdouts of free-willed undead that were fighting a very difficult battle against the rest of the world. Now the Forsaken are a state, an empire of the dead.
Yeah, it's explicitly told to you that, oh, you're one of hundreds who have been recently raised. Like, Sylvanas is creating an army right now.
So
And it's really scary.
you talk to 3 people at the start, and I think the best quest in Death Knell. You talk to 3 people. You talk to three recently raised undead that were raised like about the same time you were. One guy who's like, my hands. These aren't my hands.
It's not as comedic. I don't think it's played as
It's
comedy,
not, not at all.
No,
No. It's
sorry.
horrific.
It's really horrifying. Like, he's like, what's going on? And then it's like, you tell him, oh, those are someone else's hands that have been sewed onto you. And he's just like, he takes a moment, panics, and then he calms down. He's like, well, I guess this is my life now. All right. But it's really sad just watching him, like the little paragraphs of text that he goes through, like this process of grieving his own death.
Yeah.
And then the second one is a little less tasteful, I would say. So basically, you meet this guy, Marshall Redpath.
Yep.
And he says, no, I'm an undead. What the fuck? Well, fuck you. Fuck the Dark Lady. I'm gonna go create my own undead with blackjack and hookers. Like, it literally, they make like they don't say blackjack and hookers, but the it's a pretty explicit Futurama reference.
Yes.
It's like, he says, I'll make my own Forsaken with elbows, because at that point, like, all undead characters had to have their elbows gone and the bone sticking out there. It's very silly, and then he runs off, and you're like, well, okay.
And the last one is Lillian Voss. Lillian Voss is awesome.
I can't believe you interrupted me to say this is Lillian Voss and then didn't say anything else.
The last one is Lillian Voss, and she is initially reacting just like I was like, no, I can't be undead. This can't be true. This can't be who I am. This won't. No. And then he just runs away.
Yeah, she is actually a member of the Scarlet Crusade who has been killed and then raised. So again, she really, really, really hates undead, and now she is undead. She is also one of the main characters of Cataclysm. That's like a new character introduced in Cataclysm, and honestly, really compelling and great character. And this is our introduction to her.
So I think this is first to kind of say something interesting. It's like, first of all, they make it pretty clear that you don't have to serve the Dark Lady, right? Redpath runs away, Lillian runs away. We have one guy who decides to serve Sylvanas, but it's not. It's the choice. These characters make a choice at the beginning. Say, I'm going to join this brigade. I'm going to do it or not do it. Right? There's almost more explicit. Like the first one, you sort of just like, you get brised up and you sort of just wander into the world. Like, you're almost like you are shambling like an undead in some way. You don't really have any sort of like directed path to your life. You're just sort of there, and you have this vague feeling like you can't do anything against it. You can't actually like push against Sylvanas. But here, you are raised, and then you are given a choice, and then you act on that choice. These 3 characters take 3 different options for that choice. Redpath leads to a specific rebellion against the undead. You kill him in a bit.
I think that's important to mention. Something about the rebellion is that when you're asked to quell the rebellion, they talk about how these undead are rot brains, implying that they are not intelligent. But if you talk to Marshall Redpath, like, he's obviously a goofy, dumbass guy, but like, he's got human intelligence. He just doesn't like the undead. Like the way they talk about the undead who don't join Sylvanas is very, very like super derogatory, and like, okay, well, if they don't want to be with us, like, sure, you get to make your choice, but if you don't, you're literally sub undead to us, like subhuman, but some undead.
I feel like it's worth noting, all 3 of these characters are implied or stated to have been killed by the Forsaken.
Yeah, these are
One is
exactly
w-
the problem we talked about at the beginning. Oh,
Exactly.
we kill a bunch of people, then we raise them. What? We just killed you and then raised you as our servant. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, it's really, really fucked.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Yeah,
interesting
like-
because there's like in the original Tirisfal Glades, it's definitely like generally a sort of it's a very serious and dark perspective on everything. There's no like brevity in the zone. Like
Mhm.
even the quests here kind of the quests that are a little joke goofy. Like I'm just like getting the blanket for this random woman. Like it's like it ends up being really serious and uncomfortable in the end.
Mhm.
But here it's like there's almost like goofiness to the red code. Like this red path is like I want to make find for a form of Forsaken with elbow. It's like it's just goofiness, but the goofiness almost like underlies the even more uncomfortable quality of it. Instead of this almost the existential like terror, the first one is like transferred into a state terror of this new place. Where instead of like the primary concern being how do I deal with myself, it's now myself is like the self is almost like a thing that gets like thrown aside, and how do you deal with your relationship to the state, to Sylvanas, to the new Forsaken? I think it's really interesting.
It definitely is.
Mhm.
I think we should move on from Death Knell to the greater Tirisfal Glades and the changes in Cataclysm.
Yeah.
Mostly the quests are generally the same, but the vibes of the quests are very, very different. Like before, it felt like this place was like literally moments from falling apart. We were about to be overrun by the undead or the Scarlet Crusade. No, that is not how it is anymore. All of the buildings have been remade in a new style that Torin is obsessed with.
It's fantastic. It's so cool.
Like everything. There's a giant statue of Lady Sylvanas. She looks really hot because it's her new design and she's so sexy. Sorry. I just had to talk about how hot Sylvanas was. Like it's obligatory. This is a WoW podcast. Come on.
Sylvanas is definitely the most porn character in WoW for a reason.
Yeah. Hey.
Alex Straza.
No. Sylvanas is more. Have you seen how many slash fics there are between fucking Jaina and Sylvanas, the two hottest characters? Sorry, everyone else.
Fair enough.
Anyway, sorry. But like the entire place has been remodeled. There's death guards everywhere. Like new roads have been paved like properly. The undead are now a force to be reckoned with, and you can feel it as you play the zone. Such a vibe change.
Yeah, and specifically, it's like when you get to Brill, right? I think you notice a few times, like, oh wait, you walk out, you're like, wait, why is it these buildings are all like really nice and new, and like they got like weird electricity and stuff. But you get to Brill, the main town, you're like, wait, these there's like a specific architecture to it. It almost feels like it takes like it takes like the style of almost like Gilnean cities. Gilnean is the Worgen. We'll talk about them later. They're very important in the future. But it takes the style of the Gilneans, almost like an enemy of them, and then mixes them with this scourge like sort of experimental scientific quality with these electricity and slime and stuff going everywhere, but not just like in the gooey, just like all of seems room and everywhere. It's very specific and directed.
Super scientific looking.
Yes. The ground is paved with fucking skulls. There's a giant, as Eowyn says, there's a giant statue of Sylvanas in the middle of the town. Everything is. It's modern. It has a culture. It has a meaning. It's not just a bunch of ranchical houses that happen to be together. It is a culture. It is a people now. There is no longer this sort of like sense of lack of cohesion that's sort of like being scrambled towards. These people they know what it means to be Forsaken now. Being Forsaken is no longer, it's sort of like a metaphor for just general forsakenness of the world and of meaning and of light and of God. It is now, Forsaken is a specific statement of intention in a way.
Yes, and I think one of the main ways this is reflected in, like specifically the alchemical science, like literally evil mad scientists look like to the tech that exists within this place. This is a big reflection of sort of these are big villains within Cataclysm, the Royal Apothecary Society. So basically, what the Royal Apothecary Society sort of grew out of is like they existed in Cataclysm, they existed in Classic, but sort of were in the background up until Wrath of the Lich King during what is it? The Battle of the Wrathgate.
Yes.
Yes, the Battle of the Wrathgate, where basically there was a little Horde Alliance scuffle that got out of hand, and then and they were about to fight, and they were also fighting against the undead, right? It was a 3-sided battle, and so and while the clash is about to happen, out of the shadows upon a mountain overlooking the battle steps Apothecary Putris, who literally is like, he, fuck all of you guys. I'm gonna kill you all. And then he dumps like his new improved plague, which now kills the Scourge as well. No, he's working with. Sorry, it's been so long. Sorry, it kills all of the Alliance and Horde that are there. Like, it's really, really horrific. And it causes literally an international incident between the Alliance and Horde where they have to go and kill him back in the Undercity. The Royal Apothecary Society, it's kind of clear that Sylvanas knew about what they were doing, but decided she didn't really care as long as it was good for the undead. Like, she didn't really care. And sort of that clearly has continued in Cataclysm, as they are the most, like, as Ari likes to say, cartoonish villains within the place. They are, basically, they're like, yes, we hate life, we're going to kill everyone, and that's how it is.
And they're cool doing it.
Yeah, they're a bunch of evil I think the idea behind these guys is that, like, these are guys who have just fully embraced monstrosity, just fully gone hard into like everyone thinks I'm a horrible monster, inhuman monster. Fuck them. We'll kill all of them. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If they see me as a monster, I'll be as monstrous as they fucking want.
Yeah. And it's been like interesting in the relationship with like Sylvanas. So like Sylvanas is this like there's definitely this wish of sort of instigating this this belief in free will. I think that's a really important part of Sylvanas' whole mission towards her Forsaken. Like, you are people who have will. You use your will to serve me, but you choose to serve me with your will, which I have given you, right? It's this weird sort of reciprocity. I give you free will, therefore you must subsume that.
It's sort of paradoxical.
You must subjugate your free will to my will because I've given you free will.
But still, you got to have free will. It's very important.
Exactly. Yes. And the Apothecary Society feels like the logical conclusion of this. Like, these people, they act like they're not, like, a lot of the time they're not even under direct orders of Sylvanas. They're just sort of acting towards her will to basically end life. And carry out Sylvanas' ultimate, like, just hatred of the entire world. And I think that's really interesting. And the fact that they are clearly the most important people, like, more like in the classic, the Apothecary Society sort of was on the fringe of society. Everyone thought they were kind of weird. They did their thing. But, like, what was important was the old classical Lord-run society. It was clearly by far the most important person was the town mayor. Everything was done through these, like, there was almost like this mockery of the old Lord-run society. Things still sort of worked as before. That's not true anymore. The town mayor is still there. It's, like, sort of important, but really how it works is the Death Guards who serve Sylvanas will kill the Scarlet Crusade are there, and the Apothecary Society. And these two poles of society run everything, basically. And I think it's really interesting how we've moved from this collection of people attempting to cling to the little bits of meaning and beliefs that they had from the past to just a full-fledged, we are a society, we are a explicitly nationalistic, xenophobic, like, not xenophobic in a way that all of the nations are somewhat xenophobic, because World of Warcraft is based off of Warhammer, and that's like kind of the whole joke of Warhammer, is the hyper xenophobia. But here it's like taken to such an extreme degree that's like, my xenophobia is to life itself. And like, I've built a society around that opposition to life. I find that really fascinating as a movement here, while still maintaining the whole question of, do I have free will all the way, just under a new context.
Yeah, because I mean, like, in Classic, the Royal Apothecary Society was there, and they were trying to create a plague that would kill people and create new undead, but they were explicitly failing, like, badly at it. Like, you were just like, okay, well, all right, that's not really a problem that I have to deal with, so I'm just gonna ignore it. Like, they're not very effective, and it's clear that they are now very effective in Cataclysm. Doing such a good job killing people. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that sort of like brings us to the sort of like back to Lillian Voss, right? Lillian Voss is she says, "Oh, I'm an undead. No, I can't be an undead." But throughout the zone, like we beat as what happened in the original classic Tirisfal Glades, you will go through and get the battle plans to go and kill all the Scarlet Crusade and go one by one. But as you go through, you start to notice like there's some like random ones killed around here. What's going on here? And then you start encountering Lillian Voss, and you're like, whoa, like this she's like killed everyone. Says, hey, like there's a scene where like you get like a letter to come to a place, and then you see like a Scarlet Crusade commander hanging upside down, dead. And you come up to him and like, well, not dead. I think he's still alive. You talk to him, and then you hear Lillian Voss behind you say, "I'll kill you where you stand if you move." And she like forces you to talk to her. And she's like, and you finally get to like to come face to face with her. Someone who has been raised, who's been put through this torture. Oh, and good thing you must serve Sylvanas. You must do this thing. And said, "No, I'm not going to do that. But I'm not going to rebel. I'm not going to do what Redpath did and just bring a whole group of people together and like become this hated enemy, this other. I'm instead just going to act. I'm going to do Sylvanas' will, but on the level of what I was told to do, right? On the level of I'm going to go and take revenge for what happened in my life, right? Because Lillian Voss, sorry,
doesn't she explicitly reject Sylvanas' will? She says, "No, I'm not going to do what Sylvanas wants. I'm going to do what I think is right."
Yes, but what did she do by saying that I want to do is right? Is take revenge for her death.
Yep. That's true.
It's
So
so
sad.
She
Undead.
doesn't. Well, not really taking revenge for her death so much as taking revenge on the people who
persecuted her
knew in
after
life.
her
Yeah,
undead.
I mean, to give a little story, Lillian Voss was basically raised from like childhood to be a killer. Her job was to kill Forsaken. She was raised by the Scarlet Crusade to do her job to kill the Scourge, kill Forsaken, to be a deadly, perfect killer. And she subsumed her entire existence, her entire belief. She doesn't have her zealot just sort of belief almost like fades away in favor of this insane, just specific killing tool. She's almost like, even in being human, when she was human, she wasn't really human in that way. She was a tool for her father. When she comes back, and the fact that she's treated like, it's like, oh, you're just now an undead. We're just going to reject you, throw you out. She's like, wait, what do you mean? I gave my entire life and existence to you people. I became a tool. I gave up my individuality for you. You know, the same way that the undead give their individuality for Sylvanas. And this is how you treat me? I will take vengeance on that, right? I think
she kills her dad in a really horrific way after he disavows her and says that she needs to be killed.
Yeah.
Like, and she's in such disbelief. Like, she cannot believe that her father would abandon her like this. And it's really sad. And it's like the way that she kills her father is pretty horrific.
Yeah, for sure. And like the fact is, like, she does reject Sylvanas' direct rule. Like, I'm not gonna like work for this new nationalist entity, the Forsaken. I'm not a fan of that. But she still carries out Sylvanas' will. She still carries out that dream of vengeance, that like disgust from the living, of like the beliefs it had. It's kind of interesting because it almost returns us to the classic undead, the like whole like more individually existential terror-based experience of undead that Lillian Voss experienced versus the much more community-based, social, nationalistic undead. And I think it's kind of interesting that Lillian Voss like holds that contradiction in her character itself.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Great character.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like almost like ties a bow in the whole thing.
Wait, guys! We didn't talk about the welcome bear.
Okay, yes,
so vital.
Yes, in classic WoW, when you walk to the west, east, you walk to the east, you run into this place called Western Playgrounds. You're like, oh, this place is pretty gross and weird and creepy. And you walk in 2 feet, and then a big bear that comes and kills you. It's a great, honestly, it's great. It's great zone design for a couple reasons. First of all, it tells you don't go this way on a pure mechanical level is not for you, right? It tells you immediately in that way so you don't get stuck with all these like horrible things. But second, I think it like expresses the like extreme danger of this world, right? Like it's not just like, oh well, it's just gross and weird, and uncomfortable, all this undead, but I can just kill these things. Like, no, you walk that way and immediately you're slaughtered by a random bear.
It kills you in one shot.
Yes.
Also, I like the change in Cataclysm. When you go that way, it's no longer it's no longer disgusting and yellow and like pustules everywhere and weird spores and stuff. It's become like a beautiful green landscape that's just like and what is it? The Eowyn Forest music plays.
Yep.
And it's like, oh my god, things
will
have
get-
really changed. And
They will.
I really liked that. Like, I was like, wow, that is, it's like some effort has been made here, and they've actually changed this landscape for the better, which I really liked.
We'll get
Yeah.
into that when we get to Western Plaguelands in the future, of course.
But to kind of go back to the conclusion, it's not just is that the first zone, Tirisfal, is an incredible like tone piece, and the Cataclysm is a cool, fun, like more story-based adventure. Not just that, but the fact is they respond to each other and speak to each other in a way that's like extremely compelling to me. And I think like as a set, they're just an incredibly well done set of zones that communicate to each other in a really compelling way about the changing relationship to identity and people and class and the relationship to eventually to their god, to Sylvanas, to what it means to be forsaken from the world and forsaken the identity, the nationalist like perspective. And I think that's awesome. I love this zone so much.
This is definitely the best starting zone in both like how it functions in classic and its relationship to Cataclysm and vice versa. Of all of them. Like sorry every other starting zone. Tirisfal Glades gotcha.
And I think that kind of brings us to the final question of the episode, which is our favorite and least favorite parts of the zones. But go ahead, Ari. It is your
All right,
job.
sure. I'll start with this. Yeah, sure. What was your least favorite part of classic Tirisfal Glades?
Oh, who's going first?
I guess you're doing it because you talked first.
Damn, never talk. Okay, so my least favorite part of the zone. See, this is why I have to like think of them beforehand because I'm terrible at doing it on the spot. Let me say for a little bit more. I think I least favorite. Okay, someone else go. Someone else go first. Okay.
I think my least favorite thing about classic God, it's really hard. It's a very, very tightly and well designed zone. I think my least favorite part about classic Tirisfal Glades is how they introduced Gunther Arcanus and never see him again. I love this guy. That's fair. That's a bit of a cop out, but I really do think they introduced an potentially interesting character with this guy, and the way he like could interact with Forsaken Society and with just like the world at large, and he just never shows up again. And I'm very sad about that.
I think my least favorite part of Tirisfal Glades, the classic version of it, is how do I say it? It's like I feel like I wish there was a little bit more characterization of the old kingdom of Lordaeron. Like it's there, you can find it in the like, but I wish that there was a little bit more of people mentioning their old homes or the old king or that sort of thing. I think it's just a little bit of that would have like turned it from the perfect zone into a perfecter zone, you know?
I think my least favorite part of the zone is I think I gotta say, like I know it fits with the theme, but like there's no real ending to it at all, which in some ways contributes to like the theming of the zone. But I would have liked some sort of thing. Like I literally was like, wait, which of these quest lines is supposed to be the ending quest line? Like I literally just I don't know at all. And it kind of and maybe a better lead into Silverpine Forest. Honestly, it's just a really good zone that's tightly tied down with like I don't think any glaringly obvious flaws. Guys, we're supposed to do favorites now.
Yep. Sorry. What was your favorite thing about? I don't know. Sorry, I'm tired today. What is your favorite thing about classic Tirisfal Glades?
My favorite thing about classic Tirisfal Glades is there's so many things that are good about the zone. So many things. I would honestly I think the whole environment of the Brill Tavern itself is just absolutely incredible. I love the weird little quest and the weird individualism of it. There's no cohesiveness to it. The music is so strange. I love the woman who gives you the quest to find the blanket, and the woman who you bring the letter back to, and the innkeeper is like, oh, whatever. It's just such a good expression of the whole dichotomy of the zone, of the both the look for me, look for individuality, and the kind of hopelessness and the feeling I just kind of just submit to Dark Lady's will to just live this way because that's all I have, and I love that about that place.
I think my favorite part of the zone, we didn't really talk about this within the episode, but I really liked the giant human farms that are attached to generally to the bastions of the Scarlet Crusade, and have just like regular human farmers who kind of like are just minding their own business, like, and existing, and you're told to go and harass them for no reason. I think it really helps set the tone of like the rejection of what you once were. Like, it's like, okay, clearly these people these are just regular human farmers who are doing nothing wrong. Like, they're not threatening us. They're just living where they used to live before this place got destroyed. And it's like that little, like, I think that is the little remnant of Lordaeron that's just like so mundane and casual and really sad, just because they're still here, clinging on to this life that is over. And this place is so dangerous, and it would be better for them to move, but they're unable to, as lots of people are after horrible, horrible things have happened to your home. You still don't leave.
We normally don't do this, but I do want to comment that real quick. Is that the fact is, in classic WoW, you were just told to go steal their pumpkins. You don't try to kill them. In Cataclysm, you're told explicitly go kill these farmers. I think it's a cool difference.
Sorry, I prefer how they are in classic than well, I think because like it's specifically the context of this being right after Warcraft 3, and these people having just had their home destroyed, and them just like still clinging here, like refusing to leave and go be refugees to beg. Like there's something just really sad about it.
Yeah, I think. Okay. I think my favorite. I think my favorite thing about classic WoW, Tirisfal Glades. I think my favorite thing is probably the letter and the quest with that one undead lady and her old boyfriend who got turned into a zombie, and her like reaction to it, and the ambiguity of like what she wants to be and what she is now, and the way that I think that's just such a good microcosm of the zone as a whole. It's so good.
Yep, agreed.
What was your least favorite thing about Cataclysm, Tirisfal Glades?
I'm gonna pick the obvious one. I didn't super like how New Death Knell felt. I thought it was like it was just a little too comedic for me, like with Marshall Redpath. Like if you actually think about the content of what's happening and what you're doing, it's obviously horrifying. But like some of it on the surface, it's just like not as good at establishing the vibe as classic Death Knell, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think I can be the easy one. My least favorite part of Cataclysm Death Knell is.
You mean Tirisfal Glades?
Sorry, Cataclysm Tirisfal Glades. It's also in Death Knell, which is weirdly the worst part of the zone. I think we really got into it, but like Cataclysm Death Knell is just not that good. I think it's the fact that they like introduce you to like this whole other NPC who's like this like helper guy who's also like been raised for the dead, and do like absolutely nothing with him, and I just don't know what the point of that was. They're just like this dude. He's big. He's got Darnell. He carries a bunch of corpses, and he gets promoted to the Death Guard. And I'm just like, was I supposed to care about this guy? Why is he here?
I'm pretty sure he does stuff in like he's just being established as a character that you know because he's in subsequent questing zones.
I guess so. Fair enough.
My personal
they definitely could have done a better job though.
My personal least favorite part about Cataclysm Tirisfal Glades is probably the fact that in the classic Tirisfal Glades, I feel like it made a lot more sense to like have very much like a oh, go and kill these Scar Crusaders, then kill these Scar Crusaders, these in a very like systematic way, without really telling a story about who these people are, where they're from. But I feel like with the new like narrative focus of Cataclysm, Tirisfal Glades, and it's like nationalist function, these sorts of things, I really wish I got more into the change relationship to this new Forsaken from the Scarlet Crusade. It's not really a big complaint, it's more just like I feel like they kept the thing the same, which they should have changed with the new context.
All right, for favorite things, I'm gonna go first because we didn't talk about the most important quest in Cataclysm, Tirisfal.
No.
So, my favorite part is the stupidest quest of all time because it literally made me laugh like out loud, uproariously. Like I could not stop. It was such an insane quest. Like there's this guy in the top of a building, in one of the little like places outside of Brill, and he's sort of sitting in his bed with his top hat on, and he's like, "Wow, I worked so hard in life, and then I died. I worked so hard in life, and I got nothing. And then I worked so hard in undead, and you know what? I got riches and a house and stuff, but it still sucks. I'm still lonely. So I need you to go kidnap a Murloc and bring it back to me, and he will be my friend." And you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And then if you go and do that for him, you bring the Murloc back. He like if you come there later, you'll see a little Murloc NPC running around named what did he name him? Like Speckles or something?
Yeah, I think it's Speckles.
Absolutely insane quest, and I just thought it was really like a laugh out loud funny moment, which WoW is not always good at being funny. And it was really funny.
Yeah,
that is fair.
My favorite part about Cataclysm Tirisfal Glades it's the city of Brill. It's incredible. I love just like, first of all, on the visual perspective, it's just gorgeous. I love the skulls and engraved in the ground, the statue of Sylvanas, like the new buildings. But specifically, it's like more about how I love how the new architecture style of the new Brill buildings just speaks to a new perspective, a new path for the Forsaken, a new world. Like these are not the, as we said, the individual like existentially terrified like little creatures like clinging onto their little bits of scraps of garbage. These are a people. These are a proud, comfortable, xenophobic, violent people who have a belief about how they want the world to be. The whole idea of, oh, we don't know what we're doing anymore, I don't have a belief in anything, is gone completely. And that is so clearly visually represented in this town, which is just beautifully rendered. It's like, and it's not just like that. It specifically takes like clearly culturally from important elements of like the Forsaken culture, the relationship with the Lich King, the relationship to Gilneas, the human kingdom they basically surrounded and fucked up, and so on. And it's just I love that all these elements come together in this incredibly constructed town. I just think it's an incredible use of the transformation of a space visually to indicate a new change in perspective and direction and belief.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think
I guess not everyone can love the Murloc quest.
Murloc quest is awesome. I agree.
I do not have strong feelings about the Murloc quest.
That's insane.
I think my favorite one is I think my favorite part of Cataclysm. I think it's Lillian Voss. I think I'm going to pick the basic books option. It's Lillian Voss. Lillian Voss is great. The way she introduced is great. The way like following her story throughout this and like as it progresses, it's kind of like what I wanted out of Gunther Arcanus, but with a different character, which I think is very cool. And just like following this person, like coming to terms with her own new self and and like having to reject what she used to be and become what she is. It's such a good story of just like of the Forsaken and like what it represents to them. And I think everything about her is great. I think it is the strongest part of the zone pretty consistently.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's awesome. Man, I think the zone is just so good. Both of them are so good. They have great relationship. It's just fun. It's just I think it's the best. Both of them for me are the two best zones for so far.
I think it really reflects like how unique this storyline is to WoW. Like, this is something you don't find outside of WoW. The writers knew it, and they put passion and love into this story.
All right. I think. Yeah. No. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this. I think.
So you'd say you were wowed by that zone?
I was wowed by the zone. It's a good
There
zone.
was no zoning happened here. There was just wowing.
Absolutely none, except for
Yeah.
the Welcome Bear. Welcome Bear zoned me out of that zone.
It's true. He did zone us.
he zoned us so hard. No, but yes, wowed by that zone for sure.
Yeah. No. I'm a big fan, and I don't know if it beats Classic Duratar for me because I really, really do like the Ragefire Chasm story at the end of Classic Duratar. I think it's so good.
It beats it for me.
Fair
Anyway,
enough.
and we'll get back to it for this when Scarlet Crusade, the Scarlet Monastery. We'll be sort of entering the zone that comes much later. But I think that's a great time. This has been Torin.
First off,
Oh,
what is our next zone that we're going to,
yes.
guys?
Oh, I forgot. I have to do that. Oh, we're going to Darkshore, right?
Yep.
Yay! I love Darkshore.
We are
At least I remember loving it.
We are finally done with starting zones for a bit, and we can finally do something new with the second Night Elf zone after you've left the island tree paradise of Teldrassil, which was less of a paradise than we thought it was initially, and head over to Darkshore. So that's going to be fun, and now we can end the episode. I've been Ari.
Torin.
I'm still Eowyn.
That's not true. Anyway, and thanks for coming to Wowed by Zones, right? Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.